Today, we're delving into the chilling stories of some of the deadliest leaders in modern history, tyrants whose reigns of terror left an indelible mark of destruction. These aren't just tales of political failure. They are harrowing accounts of how absolute power, wielded by a single individual, can lead to the near total collapse of a society. From ideologically driven purges to catastrophic economic policies, we'll explore the devastating impact these rulers had on the very people they swore to lead. Our journey begins in Cambodia with Pol Pot, the enigmatic leader of the Khmer Rouge. When his forces seized power in 1975, they didn't just want to change the government. They wanted to reset civilization itself. Pol Pot envisioned an agrarian utopia, a society cleansed of all modern, foreign, and intellectual influences. To achieve this, he launched a radical social experiment known as Year Zero. Cities were forcibly evacuated, and their entire populations were marched into the countryside to work in collective farms. Money, private property, and religion were abolished. Families were torn apart, and children were taught to spy on their parents. This wasn't just a political revolution. It was a war against culture, knowledge, and even family bonds. Anyone deemed an enemy of the new state intellectuals. Doctors, teachers, monks, or even people who wore glasses was targeted for execution. The infamous killing fields became the final resting place for millions. In just 4 years, from 1975 to 1979, it's estimated that between 1.7 and 2 million Cambodians, nearly a quarter of the entire population, perished from execution, forced labor, starvation, and disease. Pol Pot's dream of a pure society became his nation's worst nightmare. A genocide that wiped out a generation and left a trauma that Cambodia is still healing from today. Next, we travel to the Soviet Union under the iron fist of Joseph Stalin. After consolidating power in the late 1920s, Stalin embarked on a brutal campaign to transform the USSR from a peasant society into an industrial superpower, no matter the human cost. His policy of collectivization forced millions of farmers off their land and onto state-run farms. Resistance was met with overwhelming force. In Ukraine, this policy led to a man-made famine known as the Holodomor, where millions starved to death as the state seized their grain. Stalin's paranoia knew no bounds. He initiated the Great Purge, a wave of political repression where anyone suspected of disloyalty from high-ranking party officials and military leaders to ordinary citizens was arrested, tortured, sent to the Gulag labor camps, or executed. Millions vanished in the middle of the night. Their families told they were enemies of the people through forced labor, politically motivated famines, and mass executions. Stalin's regime is estimated to be responsible for the deaths of over 20 million of his own people. He built a superpower, but he did so on a foundation of terror and human suffering, turning the Soviet dream into a landscape of fear and death. Let's now turn our attention to China and Mao Zedong, the founding father of the People's Republic. Mao's vision was to forge a new, powerful China, but his methods were often disastrous. In 1958, he launched the Great Leap Forward, an ambitious economic and social campaign aimed at rapidly transforming China's economy from agrarian to industrial. He ordered the creation of massive communes and pushed for backyard steel furnaces, where peasants were told to melt down their tools and cookware to produce steel. The result was a catastrophic failure. The steel produced was useless, and with so many farmers diverted from agriculture, crop production plummeted. This led to the Great Chinese Famine, one of the deadliest famines in human history. Between 1959 and 1961, an estimated 15 to 55 million people died of starvation. Years later, in 1966, to reassert his authority, Mao unleashed the Cultural Revolution. He mobilized students into paramilitary groups known as the Red Guards, encouraging them to attack the Four Olds: old customs, old culture, old habits, and old ideas. Chaos ensued. Schools were closed, temples were destroyed, and countless historical artifacts were lost forever. Intellectuals, artists, and anyone deemed a counter-revolutionary were publicly humiliated, beaten, or killed. The Cultural Revolution plunged China into a decade of turmoil and violence. destroying much of its traditional heritage and causing the deaths of up to 2 million more people. Mao's grand visions ultimately brought immeasurable suffering and set his nation back decades. Our final stop is in Germany, where Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party rose to power in 1933. Hitler's ideology, a toxic mix of racial supremacy and aggressive nationalism, set the stage for unimaginable atrocities. He promised to restore Germany's greatness after its defeat in World War I, but his path to glory was paved with hatred and war. The Nazis systematically dismantled democracy, silenced all opposition, and began persecuting anyone they considered an enemy of the state, particularly Jewish people. The Nuremberg laws stripped Jewish citizens of their rights, and the Kristallnacht pogrom signaled a terrifying escalation of violence. Hitler's ambition didn't stop at Germany's borders. His invasion of Poland in 1939 triggered the Second World War, the deadliest conflict in human history, resulting in over 70 million deaths worldwide. In the midst of this war, Hitler and his regime carried out the Holocaust, the systematic, state-sponsored genocide of 6 million European Jews, along with millions of others, including Romani people, Poles, Soviet civilians, and political opponents. By the end of the war in 1945, Germany was in ruins, its cities flattened, its economy destroyed, and its people burdened with the moral shame of having followed a leader who led them into unparalleled depravity and self-destruction. From Pol Pot's agrarian nightmare to Hitler's genocidal war, these leaders share a terrifying common thread, an unwavering belief in their own ideology. Coupled with a complete disregard for human life, they promised salvation but delivered devastation, turning their nations into prisons and their people into victims. Their stories are a powerful and somber reminder of the dangers of unchecked power and the importance of vigilance in safeguarding freedom and human dignity. History must not just be remembered, it must be understood so that we never allow such horrors to be repeated. Thank you for watching. If you found this exploration of history valuable, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more deep dives into the events that have shaped our world.